Torah, page 50, Parshas Acharei. Okay, 3 lines to the end of the first column. Let's go. Okay, now the Rebbe asked the question, why doesn't it say who forgives? Shh. Why doesn't it say who forgives? And now the Rebbe asked, why doesn't the Shema come down in the world, and the Shema is from the highest of places? And he answers, just like a fire needs a wick, a lukus needs a keli, food to keep it in the body. So he says that food is Torah mitzvahs of the Jew. This is what we're learning yesterday at the end, that at the beginning of creation, for the first 26 generations, so there's no avodah, right? So therefore, it was chafetz chesed, a gift from above. But afterwards, in order for it to keep existing, from nothing into something, it has to be the actions of down here to create the fuel for the godly fire to stay here. Like the pasuk says, whoever calls my name and my glory, which represents the 4 worlds. Shmi ukvedi is my name, my glory is Atzilus, and then you have Barasi Yitzartiv Afasisif. And Kovid, El Torah, the Gemara says Kovid refers to Torah. Shem Dera Klal, Ramach Mitzvah says Sevishas HaMitzvah Sleishes. But generally speaking, the 248 positive, 365 negative. Shem Bechenes Kalim, those are the vessels, Lahashros Eravayim, to keep Hashem resting on Mochem L'Shiftei, and the dwelling place, Shi'alei Dir B'Tachteinim. So therefore he says like this, Vadehein Kedimyan Apsila V'Eitzim, mitzvahs are like the wicks and the fuel. Shebehem Nechaz Or Shali Yistalik L'May L'Chas Hashem. Okay? So the bottom line is, in order to keep Hashem in the world, you need fuel, you need a wick. Until Matan Torah was chesed of above. After Matan Torah, you need Torah mitzvahs, which is generally speaking the wick and the oil. So he says, but there's an expression in the Zohar, it's not the way of a king to talk with simpleton words. Now the king doesn't talk peasant talk. Meaning, nothing, words of nothingness, that are not in the realm of elokus. Normally a king speaks royal things. A king doesn't speak peasant talk, like you said. But the problem is, by Hashem, compared to Hashem, everything, the highest worlds and the lowest worlds are peasant talk. Because Hashem is so infinitely greater. Compared to Hashem himself, all this is peasant talk. Because Hashem is infinitely above them, and everything is mamish considered nothing. Like a king, okay? Now, let's say a king has millions and billions of gold and silver. And then you're going to praise the king that he has a lot of earthenware vessels. He says, not only is not a compliment, it's an insult. Somebody will come to Elon Musk, yeah? It was worth 239 billion. As of yesterday. And they'll say, oh, the guy's a millionaire. It's an insult, mamish an insult. If somebody wants to talk about a king that has millions of gold and silver, and you say he has a good pottery collection, it's mamish an insult. But that at least is in the same level. They're both limited. How much more so? Compared to Hashem, to talk in the words of Hashem, of the 10 utterances, he says, not only that, earth is inanimate, Gold and silver is inanimate, and the gold and silver comes from the dirt. You mine it from the ground. And yet, so there is a comparison mathematically between millions of gold and silver and earth. It's all in the same realm. And he says, if it's a kesba, when you refine the silver, or berchen is when you refine the gold, then they become Teshuva ma'ed umugdal min afer asher inofer chimoy. Okay? So he's saying, even in the mashal, it's not similar to the nimshal. In the mashal of praising a king that has billions of gold and silver, and you're praising that he has earthenware. Okay, but earthenware is really the source of the gold and silver. They're interconnected. But Avol ha'elim is the Gabi HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what world? Afilu ha'elim is Sayyid v'Gan Eden, even the highest of worlds, highest level of Gan Eden, ein arech elav klal, there's no connection whatsoever. V'las machshava tfise b'im efes etel, it's mamish considered nothing. So that Rabbi is saying like this, that the world, compared to Hashem, is really an insult to deal with that. So what's the word? The Gemara says, whatever Hashem created, he only created for his own glory. Meaning, yeah, the Malachim praise Hashem, and they say, the word Eilam means helam, concealment. Even the highest world, the fact that it's a world, so definition world, it means there's a definition of the world, maybe a spiritual definition. But every world is limited based on the limitation, the boundaries of that world. Whether it's physical or spiritual, it doesn't matter. But it's still limited. It's still a concealment. Compared to Hashem, it's nothing. Therefore, when the Malachim say Kaddish and all that stuff, they're saying, they feel the way Hashem is actually Kaddish Shemot, Salem. You're the same God before, afterward, there's no change in you. So therefore, what did the Malachim Taka say? What level of Elokus is in the world? Only the garments of Hashem, the glory of Hashem. And he quotes the Gemara, Rabbi Yechon Kari Lemanim Mechabdusa. The Gemara says, Rabbi Yechon called his garments what honors him. Because a person is honored by the way they dress. He called his house, he called his wife his house, he called the garments his honor. Shesham nislabish b'maisa mitzvah kiyam Torah. So why, what's the word over here? Why isn't it merely the Yaita? Because Torah is called covered, right? So he says, what is covered? The 248 mitzvahs, 365 negative mitzvahs that are in the world, and that level of kedusha of Torah is in the world, and that's chachmasu ritzenu, which is kveidei, and that's why Elokus comes into the world, but it's Torah mitzvahs in the world. So it's not anymore milan that yait, it's not anymore peasant talk, because it's the essence of Hashem in the world. Malachar is kveidei. I know. Huh?
Why did we come down to this world? That was the question.
Yeah. But he said to go up greater than before. He didn't finish it yet. What? It's a Gemara. Rabbi Yechanan did that.
Let me ask my house. If somebody wants somebody, let me ask the house. Let me ask.
That's right.
Only Muslims, not Jews.
Wow.
It's first time I hear.
Rabbi Yechanan in the Gemara says Rabbi Yechanan called his wife the house, and he called his garments those things that honor him.
Acharei the same thing.
I know. Okay, the Hainu. Ma'ata levushim malachol is kveidei, and covered, the word covered, begemati yelamed beis. The word covered, chav beis vav dalet equals 32, which corresponds with the 32 channels of Chachma. Because the Gemara says, the Gemara says, when Kabbalah says that Chochmah has 32 channels, channels, so to speak, paths, and there's 50 gates of Bina. Lamed Beis Nesiv is Chochmah, and Nun Chamishim Shari Bina. That's why it says Levanin is Lev Nun. Represents Levanin, Chassidus explains, is Chochmah and Bina. Because Levanin is Lev Nun, which is Chochmah and Bina. Ve'ishtaush is Chochmah, and Ishtaush is Mata Mata. Achin is Slab Shebeter Shebal Peh. Then it comes into this world, Ube'elam Hazeh, Yeshnish Nesivas Harbi. Because there's a lot of paths that come into Seder of Zroyim and Seder Moed, meaning the Torah is the paths of all the things in the world come down in Torah, through Torah, into the world. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining that after Matan Torah, in order for the Jews to keep Elokus in the world, they need the actions of Torah mitzvahs. That is the kovid, that is the garment of Hashem that keeps Hashem functioning in the world. Now, Miladet Yaita refers to the actual 10 utterances. But Torah mitzvahs is not Miladet Yaita, it is Hashem. And that's what Hashem is dealing with. Not the 10 utterances, which is peasant talk compared to Hashem. It's Torah mitzvahs, which is the essence of Hashem. Torah is the essence of Hashem. The way it comes down, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, about, in the beginning of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says, Torah is likened to mayim. Ma mayim yad makim namuch, right? Just like water. Goes from the highest place to the lowest place. Same thing, Torah comes from the highest place to the lowest place, yes? But Chassidus explains what it means is, it's not stam water comes from higher to lower. The same water which is up there, the same water is down here. The water didn't change. Yes?
It's nature.
Which means Torah up there, the way Torah comes down here, didn't change. It just dresses itself into physical analogies, physical objects. It talks about agriculture, it talks about tumah and tar, but it's the same level of Torah. Therefore, Torah can never become tummy. Neshama up there, remember the Alter Rebbe says in Perek Dalet that even though the Neshama is chilek alakam mimal mamish, but they still need the garments of Torah mitzvahs to connect the Neshama to Hashem. So the very famous question is, but the Neshama is also chilek alakam mimal. Why does the Neshama need Torah mitzvahs? Just like Torah mitzvahs says, Uva chachma seyachad. Neshama, the Alter Rebbe says in Perek Beis, is also Uva chachma seyachad. So why do I need the Neshama? Why does the Neshama need Torah? And the explanation, Chassidus says, is very simple. Neshama up there is higher than Torah. Agreed? Daber b'nei Yisrael, the first is b'nei Yisrael, then you have Torah. So Neshama in the source is greater than Torah. But the way the Neshama comes down into a body, and Nefesh Habamis and this, it's possible for a Nefesh and Neshama to become impure, to sin. And therefore, when it says at the beginning of Vayikra, Nefesh kisechta, if a Nefesh will be asked to bring certain korbanos, the Zohar says, Nefesh kisechta tavo. It's not a statement. It's a shocking question. Nefesh kisechta. How is it possible for a Nefesh to sin? But it's the Nefesh, the lowest level of the Neshama, that could sin. So down here, Neshama could become impure. Torah, down here, never becomes impure. Down here, Torah is greater than the Neshama. So granted that in the source, the Neshama is greater than Torah, but once it comes down here, the Neshama needs Torah to connect it to Hashem, because down here, Torah doesn't change.
The water that is down here is not the same like the water up there.
Well, with all due respect to your scientific genius, but It's the same water. It might become dirty, but the water doesn't change.
It has power up there. It's coming to force.
The water down here doesn't have power. Go to Niagara Falls.
The height has the,
It's the same purity of water.
material, yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what he's saying. So the same thing, Torah. Yes, Torah down here deals with physical things. Torah deals down here with two people fighting over a talus. Shnai meichzim b'talus, right? I found it, you found it, the whole thing. Yeah? In Gan Eden we learned, Tzemach Tzedek explains, how do they learn Torah in Gan Eden? There's no garments up there, there's no talesim up there. What are they? So Nefesh, Shnai meichzim b'talus, it says, two neshamas are fighting over a mitzvah called garments. Two neshamas in Gan Eden, how are they learning Torah up in Gan Eden? Two neshamas are fighting over a mitzvah. This one said, I did it, and this one said, no, I did it.
But they don't have mitzvah up there either.
Yeah, but I'm saying, the mitzvah down here, but mitzvah is spiritual. Down here, mitzvah comes into a physical thing. But up there, they learn about the concept of mitzvahs. Not physical mitzvahs, spiritual mitzvahs. So they're arguing over there, or machla part of chamar, a person exchanges a donkey for a cow, and then they gave birth, and you don't know if the birth was before the exchange, after the exchange, who does it belong to? So Chassidus explains, what does that mean over here? How do they learn that in Gan Eden? So a parda and a chamar represents two types of Yetzaharas. Nefesh Abamis. So you have a chamar that's always cold, a behema, and a machal bar chamar means one nefesh abamis got exchanged for another nefesh abamis, and this. So over there they learn the Torah differently. But it's the same Torah, it's the same wisdom of Hashem. That comes from the highest levels to the lowest levels.
Rabbi, for centuries, the scientists...
One second. And then there's a level of Torah which is even higher than wisdom of Hashem.
You have a degree.
That's the way Hashem's toy.
You have a scientific degree.
Shashuy Melech. Anyway, let me hear what did
Yeah, for centuries, the scientists used the concept, argued the concept that there is no water beyond the atmosphere or the stratosphere, and they were.
We're talking about spiritual water becoming physical.
No, but they were talking about the suggestion was written in Torah that water came from above heaven. There's somewhere that says, but then now.
Yeah, there was higher water, lower water, and then the heavens split it. No.
So they found a
But
planet.
now it's been less than a century that they're saying that actually came huge chunks of ice that came from outside the atmosphere.
Now, how many centuries did they believe the world was flat?
Yeah.
They still know something.
When Torah spoke already thousands of years ago, Kadur Haaretz, the ball of the earth. So is that the first time science was wrong? It ain't going to be the last either. Okay, base. Being a cloud called Torah,
Torah cannot get dirty.
Moshe-
impure. That means halachically, somebody who's impure is allowed to learn. They're allowed to touch a Sefer Torah.
Like a ladies if they are not
What?
Why aren't we showing the Torah to the ladies?
That is not halacha. It says in Shulchan Aruch, it's an additional purity. It says no precious ba'atzma. It never says that they act with strictness, but halachically, it's not tamei.
Only when needed.
Yeah, only when needed.
No matter how brilliant Sadiq studies the Torah down here, it has the same chizuk as the Torah of Hashem up there.
No, it's greater.
I don't know.
Where do you elevate it? Dafka down here. Dafka and Guf Nef Shabbamis, where you have free choice and all that. Why are the Ovis waiting? Chassidus uses this expression. The Ovis and Moshe Rabbeinu waiting 3,000 years for Mashiach to come and teach them Torah. You imagine the level that they are in Gan Eden, the Ovis and Moshe Rabbeinu. Can you imagine Gan Eden going to the highest level? Yeah, and they are waiting for Tchis and Mason for Mashiach to teach them Torah. It's a much greater level down there. That's part of why the neshama comes down.
So actually the water down here is higher than the water up there.
But the water down here, when it says in Pasach Eliyah, even the Sfardim say a lot. Pasach Eliyah says Chesed Rei Yamina. Chesed is the right hand of Hashem. Yes? Does that mean that Hashem has a right hand and a left hand and a stomach and a foot and 2 feet and no? So the Alter Rebbe said, Tzemach Tzedek says in Shesh Mitzvot Tefillah, it means one of two things. Either, number one, either that it has the same, Chesed of Atzilus has the same function of a hand down here, just like the purpose of a hand, right hand, is to give. So the Chesed is giving. Or another thing Tzemach Tzedek says, that the spiritual source of the physical hand down here is Chesed of Atzilus. Which means, in Atzilus there's no physicality of hands. Even Bria and Yetzirah there's no, and in spiritual Asiyah there's also no physicality. It comes into the Gashmistic world. But what is the spiritual source for a right hand? Chesed of Atzilus. Now, Chesed of Atzilus is spiritual. But when it comes down and down and down and down and down and down and down, so then it becomes physical. What does it become when Chesed Atzilus comes down in the physical nature? It could become either Mayim, which is Chesed. It could become a right hand, which is Chesed, in different functions down here. One function of Chesed of Atzilus down here is water. One function is right hand, and a million other functions of Chesed.
Right hand can also punch.
No, that represents the left hand. No, I understand, but that's when you use the right hand, which symbolizes Chesed for a negative act. That's an Aveda.
But you could. I'm just saying.
You have free choice. You can take everything a Kedusha and make it evil.
What did you say?
He's saying you can punch with the right hand also, so it's not only Chesed. So he says, those are called Gimel Madrei Shem Torah, Tefillah, Tzedakah. It all represents the three levels, Torah, Tefillah, and Tzedakah, which is like the Mishnah says, Al Shleish, Dvarim Elam Eimed Torah, V'Aveda Gemilas Chasadim. So all, bottom line is like this. Torah mitzvahs are the vessels for Elokus to come into the world.
Right.
Because normally, a king doesn't speak peasant talk. Worlds, even the highest, are peasant talk. So Hashem doesn't want to deal with world as is. When does Hashem come into the world? Hashem comes into the world because of Torah mitzvahs. Because that's the covet of Hashem, the essence of Hashem, and therefore Hashem comes into the world not because of world which is peasant talk, but on their contrary. And therefore by the Aseres and Dibros, Chassidus explains the question all the Mefarshim ask. Normally, Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe Leimer means Hashem spoke to Moshe, Leimer to repeat it to the Jews. Okay? So, all the Mefarshim, every Mefarshim Chumash asks, Vayidaber Elokim es kol advarim ha'ela Leimer, the prophecy before Matan Torah, Hashem spoke all these words. Leimer, what does Leimer mean? Every Jew is present in Matan Torah. To whom do you have to repeat it? And Mefarshim answer a lot of different answers. But one answer in Chassidus, there's many. One answer in Chassidus is, Vayidaber Elokim es kol advarim ha'ela, the union of Torah is Leimer, Le-Amor, meaning to bring Torah into the utterances, Asar Maimoris. Vayidaber Elokim es kol advarim ha'ela, there's a revelation of Matan Torah, Leimer, to bring it down into the world. Because that's the existence, the kiyum of the world, is when there's Torah mitzvahs. Now the Alter Rebbe is saying that Torah mitzvahs is divided into three general categories. Torah, Aveda, and Chasadim. Tefillah b'makam Aveda. Okay, Aveda is HaKarbanis. Gemilas Chasadim is Tzedakah. Keneg, again, Mudvar corresponding with these three things, it says, Brasi Yitzartiv. Afasisiv, which is Machshava, Dibur, and Maisa. In other words, like this, the three pillars that the world stands on, Torah, Aveda, Gemilas Chasadim, is Machshava, Dibur, and Maisa. The Alter Rebbe is going to explain it later. It's not like Machshava, davening is Tefillah Shebelev. Love the b'chol levavchem, to serve Hashem with all your heart. The Gemara says, Eiz Aveda Shebelev, Tefillah. Because Tefillah is not saying the words primarily. Tefillah is the meditation of the heart. Torah, v'dibarta bam, you have to say it. Chaim heim lemetzoyim b'peh dafka, you have to speak Torah. And Gemilas Sodim is action. So the three columns, the three pillars that the world stands on, Torah, Avodah, Gemilas Sodim, represents Machshava Dibur Amaisa, which represents Berosiv, Yitzartiv, Afasisiv. Bria is Machshava, Yitzira is Dibur, and Nasiya is Asiyah. So all of Torah mitzvahs, meaning bringing down Kiddush into the world to have the food for the fuel, food as fuel for the fire of Hashem to be in the world, you need all three pillars. He says, Brasiv Machshava, which is the level of Riya Yesh Ma'ayin, V'neged HaTfil, which Aveda Shebelev, which is Kavanim Machshava, K'maimer Azal, Tfilah B'lei Kavanim, K'guf B'lei Neshama. The Gemara says, davening without Kavanim is like a guf without a Neshama. Means it's dead. So why do you daven with it? So now the Alter Rebbe says, if the whole concept of davening is meditation, so why do we need to say the words? We should just read the words and meditate it. Right. He said, "V'diber atfila is rak sheyakel me'era kavana," because speech awakens kavana. When you say something, it awakens kavana. So therefore, but dibur of davening is secondary. The primary inyan, the concept of davening, not the concept of davening, connecting, binding with Hashem Karbanis, is meditation. Dibur is to awaken the words. What?
What is the bringing down here? What is practically?
How do we keep Hashem in the world? By doing Torah mitzvahs in the three pillars: thought, speech, and action. A person is Adam, Machshava, Dalet, Dibur, Mem, Maisa, right? Madam, no, but it's Adam, right? Because Aleph is Machshava. A person is thought, speech, and action. A person has to be full, completely full. That means there's no empty spaces of Machshava, Dibur, and Maisa of Torah. When a person is full of Machshava, Dibur, and Maisa of Torah, they are creating the fuel of Hashem's existence in the world. And therefore, if they're creating the fuel for Hashem's existence in the world, that's what makes them holy. Because they are the ones, excuse me, they're the ones doing it, bringing it down, so they get their Kedusha. In the Basi Laganis, when it speaks about bringing the Shkin al Mata, so in the Basi Laganis of the Rebbe, he explains that because we're the ones that do it, so we get it more than anywhere else. Because we're actually the ones bringing it. So tzaddikim that are full only of Machshava, Dibur, and Maisa Torah mitzvahs, that's what makes them holy, godly.
What's Moshe Rabbeinu's last name?
What?
What's Moshe Rabbeinu's last name?